Wait a minute! The movie's called Kangaroo Jack!
Imagine this. Two childhood friends get caught up with the mob and are forced to deliver $50,000 to Australia, but things go haywire when the money is lost to a wild kangaroo. I am today's host, Nathan, and I'll be explaining 2003's Kangaroo Jack. The movie starts with a kid named Charlie having fun on the beach. His mother had just met a man named Salvatore Maggio, and they were on a date. Charlie bumps into a boy named Louis, who has a metal detector. They talk for a bit, and Louis thinks Charlie has some money in his back pocket. It turns out to be just a toy, and Louis searches for money elsewhere.
To check every square inch of this beach if I'm gonna make my car payment.
Another guy named Frankie throws a football and asks Charlie to get it. The beach is not big enough though, and Charlie almost drowns in the water as he cannot swim. Louis sees this and runs into the water to save his life.
That one moment changed my life.
20 years later, Charlie now owns a beauty salon. He wants to improve the place, but Salvatore's goons take all the money he makes every week, leaving him helpless. Louis, who is now his best friend, walks in and asks Charlie for a favor. He wants him to help transport some TVs. Charlie is very reluctant at first but eventually agrees to do it after Louis reminds him how he saved his life. Louis and Charlie are driving normally when the police tell them that the vehicle was stolen. Charlie asks Louis to pull over and tell them the truth, but Louis has other plans. He speeds off, starting a chase with the officers. They manage to escape the police and show up at their destination.
I am getting out. You can't bail on me now.
But with only 5 TVs. One of Salvatore's goons recognizes Charlie, and it turns out that the warehouse belongs to Salvatore. The police show up and arrest everyone while Charlie and Louis escape safely. Back at Salvatore's house, he is very mad at Charlie and Louis, and he shouts at them. He tells them to go to Australia and deliver a package as the last chance to redeem themselves. Both of them agree, and after they leave, Salvatore reveals that he plans to cancel their return ticket home. As they head to the car, someone takes pictures of them from afar. Louis opens the envelope on the plane even though Salvatore asked them not to. He meets Charlie in the toilet to discuss what he saw, and both the air hostess and one passenger eavesdrop on their conversation. When they both came out, they tried explaining, but the girls just left them there. After they land in Australia, Charlie has problems going through the scanner because the money Salvatore gave them was too much. Louis goes through without a problem, and when Charlie tries, they check his belongings. It turns out that Louis had the money when he went through the scanner. They get in a car and are about to leave when a cleaner takes a picture of them without them noticing. Charlie is driving at top speed when he hears a loud thud. They get out of the car and see that they ran over a kangaroo.
I never saw it.
Charlie tries dragging it to the side of the road, but Louis has other ideas. He dresses the kangaroo in his jacket and shades and takes a few pictures with it. Suddenly the kangaroo regains consciousness, hits Charlie with its legs, and starts hopping away at top speed. Charlie is laughing because the kangaroo made away with Louis' jacket until Louis tells him that the money is inside the jacket's pocket.
Salvatore Maggio's $50,000.
They get in their car and chase after the kangaroo. They almost catch it too, but it fools them after they destroy some termite mounds. They end up destroying the car, and the kangaroo gets away. While walking back, Charlie tells Louis off for being so lightheaded and making all the wrong decisions. Pretty sure some of us have heard that line somewhere before. They get into a bar, sweaty and thirsty, and order 2 beers. Charlie is nervous about how they will sort out the missing cash issue, and Louis suggests calling Mr. Smith to ask for some time. There is a misunderstanding right after because Louis doesn't understand the waitress's words to describe the restroom. While Louis is gone, a man named Blue compliments Charlie on his drinking. They exchange names and start a conversation. Meanwhile, on the phone, Mr. Smith threatens to kill Charlie and Louis because he thinks they've stolen his money.
Chop you into snags and feed you to the crop.
Louis tries explaining, but Mr. Smith hangs up and checks the location where the phone call was made from. Rule number 1 of theft: use untraceable phones. Louis checks the phone book and takes out the number of the Wildlife Service. He lies to Charlie about what Mr. Smith said and heads outside. It turns out the building isn't far off, and he meets a girl named Jessie, who tells him that the best way to catch a kangaroo is by shooting it with tranquilizer darts while on a plane. Back in Brooklyn, Salvatore is taking a lesson on new English words when a call from Mr. Smith comes in. Mr. Smith tells him what he thinks, and after apologizing, he tells Frankie to go find them in Australia. Louis gets back into the bar, and he sees Charlie, Blue, and some other men having a drink competition. Louis calls Charlie aside, and he tells him all about the plan.
This is a tranquilizer dart. It works in...
Charlie is reluctant but agrees eventually.
I like it.
Let's go call.
They go to the phone and try calling the pilot. It turns out to be Blue, who has just passed out in front of them. An hour later, Blue is flying Louis and Charlie over the desert thanks to some coffee and Red Bull. They fly for a while, and Louis spots the kangaroo. Blue immediately goes after it, and Louis tries steadying the tranquilizer. Just as he is about to pull the trigger, Kangaroo Jack takes a sharp turn, causing Louis to shoot Blue in the neck. Charlie tries controlling the plane when Blue gets paralyzed, and he only manages to not kill anyone on board. Pilot of the Year. Blue tries fixing the radio to ask for help when his motor skills return to normal, but Charlie and Louis get tired quickly and ask for the direction of where Jessie is working on her new project. Blue tells them, and they get on their way.
Think she'll be okay with Sal?
A couple of hours later, they are exhausted. A couple of dingoes come and threaten to attack, but a sandstorm chases the dogs away. Louis is drenched in sweat, so the wind is welcome. Despite Charlie's warnings, he gets carried away by the wind. Frankie and his goons land at the airport and meet their guide.
My name is Mr. Jimmy.
They ask him where they can find guns and ammunition and lie that they are hunters. Another couple of hours later, Charlie starts hallucinating because of the heat. He sees a car and gets in, unaware it doesn't exist.
Come on, hop in.
Blue finally fixes the radio and calls for help. The woman at their office answers but is immediately gagged by Frankie, who takes note of their location and leaves. Charlie and Louis say a couple of nasty things to each other and try fighting but are too tired for any of that to actually happen. Jessie heads towards them on a camel, and Charlie squeezes her breast thinking she is a mirage as well. She knocks him out afterward. At least that way, he could think it was all in his head. When Charlie wakes up, he goes to see Jessie and offers her $2,000 to help him, and Louis find the kangaroo. She agrees, and they start their journey the next morning.
Doesn't get any better than this, Louis.
Charlie, Louis, and Jessie make it to their destination just as Frankie hires Blue to show him where it is. While there, Jessie shows them how to throw a bolo, and they start practicing. It takes them a couple of hours, but Charlie perfects his aim with the bolo. Louis gets good enough to be called average. In the car that Frankie hired, Blue tells them that Charlie and Louis were chasing after a kangaroo in a red jacket. Frankie throws him out of the car after that, and they continue on their journey. That evening, Charlie, Louis, and Jessie all start hunting for Kangaroo Jack. Charlie spots him after some time, and they start sneaking up on him. Just when they get close enough to throw the bolos, and crawl up Louis' leg, causing him to shout and alert the kangaroo. That evening, Jessie is having her bath in the spring when Charlie joins her. Woo! They talk for a bit and start kissing. They are about to continue when Louis jumps in the water, ruining their moment. Back in Frankie's car, he asks his tour guide about the best place to find kangaroos. After the man tells him, he throws him out of the car as well and continues his journey. The next morning, the gang is woken up by Mr. Smith and his goons. He ties them up and searches the camels for the money.
To hide that money in that saddlebag.
After seeing nothing, he is about to kill Charlie when Jessie tells him she can show him where they can find the kangaroo. He takes her and rides ahead and whispers to his goons to kill Charlie and Louis when they get out of earshot. Mr. Smith's goons are leading Charlie and Louis on when Charlie gets his scissors out of his pocket and cuts free. Louis distracts the men while Charlie gets their gun. He asks them to take him to where Jessie is, and they oblige. Jessie has just shown Mr. Smith another empty feeding patch and is about to kill her when Charlie and Louis show up with his goons. They get him to free Jessie, and Frankie shows up. Frankie and Mr. Smith get into an argument just as Kangaroo Jack shows up, and it escalates into an all-out fight. Charlie and the rest of the gang decide to drive Jackie into the canyon and corner him there. Frankie knocks Mr. Smith out with the butt of his rifle and asks his goons to get in the car. They chase the gang through the canyon while they chase Jackie. The chase is tough, and the gang has to dodge bullets and natural obstacles constantly. Eventually, Frankie's car turns over and crashes. Louis catches up with the kangaroo and takes the money out of the jacket pocket but falls into the canyon, hanging onto the camel's rope. Charlie ties a couple of belts together and manages to save Louis' life. Just then, Frankie shows up and grabs Jessie. He points a gun at Charlie, and Charlie offers to give him the money back. Frankie explains to him that Mr. Smith is a contract killer, and they were supposed to be dead. Just as he's about to shoot them, his former tour guide, who turns out to be a police officer, shows up and gets Frankie arrested. The movie ends with Charlie on a yacht. He is married to Jessie now, and the haircare product they launched is making serious money. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos from Imagine This, and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.